I arrived at the reception hall as the bridesmaids processed down the aisle, clutching their bouquets like armor. In that moment, as she floated towards the altar in her white dress, blind to everything but her own fairy tale fantasy, I felt the knife twist in my gut. I first met Emily in college when we were both clueless freshmen figuring out which side of the cafeteria to sit on. She was magnetic, laughing easily, forgiving quickly, and somehow making everyone around her feel like they'd known her forever. I fell in love the night we stayed up until 4 a.m. talking about our fears, mine of being ordinary, hers of never finding someone who truly understood her. Over the years, I believed she had found that person in me. We moved into our first apartment together, painted the living room mint green, and spent lazy Sundays arguing over which pizza joint was superior. One crisp autumn afternoon, she left for work early, kissing me on the cheek as she rushed out the door. I planned to surprise her later with coffee and a scavenger hunt note game around our apartment. When I checked my phone midway through the morning, I saw a text from an unknown number. "She's with someone else. Check her last location." My heart raced. I forced myself to stay calm, convincing myself it had to be a prank. But on my second coffee run, I stopped by her office building. From across the street, through the tinted glass, I glimpsed her inside, in his arms, his mouth on hers. The betrayal eclipsed everything. I spent the next week in a numb haze, replaying that memory on loop, unable to tell her directly what I had seen. Instead, I watched every step she took, tracking her phone. She left her office at 6, he met her in a black sedan. They drove to a hotel affectionately hand in hand. I never wanted to know who he was, just that it was proof. Weeks later, Emily confessed she was engaged. She told me how he proposed on a rooftop at sunset, how perfect it felt, how she couldn't wait to start the next chapter. My chest tightened so much that I thought I couldn't breathe. At our engagement party 2 months after the rooftop proposal, everyone smiled and toasted their future. I forced my own smile, raising my glass like a trained actor, all while sensing the poison lurking beneath her words. Then came the wedding invitations, printed on ivory cardstock with gold calligraphy. "Emily and Michael request the honor of your presence." Michael. So that was his name. I stared at the envelope, imagining the look on my face when I dropped it in the mailbox. Could I tear it up? No, I had bigger plans. For the next 2 months, I scoured every detail I could find about their venue, their caterer, their photographer. I found the florist who had supplied the centerpieces and learned that their deposit was non-refundable. I reserved a block of rooms at the hotel across the street under a false name, ensuring I'd be close enough to execute my plan. I monitored his social media, memorizing his routines. He worked as a financial analyst at a high-profile firm downtown, a job that demanded perfection. On the morning of June 12th, the day of the wedding, I arrived at the hotel carrying a suitcase brimming not with my own things, but with envelopes and USB drives. As I checked in, the receptionist asked for my name. I used the alias Samuel Reed and smiled, making sure to look casual. Once settled in, I unpacked my contents. In each envelope was a note. "Congratulations on your wedding day, but before you say I do, perhaps you'd like to see a few things." The USB drives contained folders labeled Emily Montage and Michael Files. At noon, I slipped into the back seat of a rented sedan and made my way to the venue. The chapel was a restored barn on a sprawling estate. Whitewashed walls, wooden pews adorned with lace ribbons, soft light filtering through stained glass windows. Outside, guests mingled under a canopy of fairy lights, sipping champagne as a string quartet warmed up. Inside, the bridesmaids lined up, all in pastel blue chiffon. I found an audio-visual technician setting up for the reception's evening slideshow. He was testing the projector in an adjacent room where no one else was supposed to enter until later. I introduced myself as a cousin of the groom who'd forgotten a few last-minute files. He glanced at me suspiciously but shrugged when I flashed a photo of the real Michael on my phone. "Cousin suit," I lied, "left it at home." He handed me the remote and pointed at the rack of flash drives. "Just plug it in here," he said. I slipped the USB labeled Michael files into the port. Behind me, the technician remarked, "That looks like the accounting summary. You okay?" I nodded, feigning confidence. He walked away to fetch another cable. Within seconds, the projector flickered to life, projecting not spreadsheets, but a slideshow of screenshots of texts between Michael and Emily, texts that revealed far more than flirty banter. In one, Michael bragged to a friend about Emily's naivety. "She has no idea I'm already married, planning a divorce, but she's so in love, she thinks I set this up for her." In another, he mocked her quarantine-induced weight gain. The audience in the room gasped. A murmur swelled into chaos. Bridesmaids clutched at their gowns. Floral arrangements quivered as guests exchanged horrified looks. Down the aisle, Emily stopped mid-step, her white gown swishing. Her smile froze. She reached for the bouquet in her hands, but her fingers trembled. I watched from the back, heart pounding like a war drum. Someone tried to turn off the projector, but the tech found the remote unresponsive. The slideshow had switched to the next USB, Emily montage. Images of Emily hugging another man, passionately whispering in his ear. Not Michael. A coworker from her office, a man whose identity was yet unknown to the guests. The strings of betrayal spun tighter. Screams erupted, phones flicked on, recording every frame. I slipped out into the corridor, closing the door behind me. In the hallway, I paused to catch my breath. I knew the fallout would be seismic, Michael exposed as a liar, Emily reduced to tears, guests running in panic. But part of me wondered, was this justice or simply vengeance masquerading as truth? Lobby bells jingled as a handful of wedding guests flooded out, distressed. The technician cursed under his breath, realizing what had happened. I blended into the crowd, walking calmly toward the exit. In the vestibule, I paused to look back at the chapel doors, cracked now open to the outside world, the ceremony undone. Then I slipped down the stairs and into the bright afternoon light. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "Enjoyed the show? Now keep watching." I barely had time to register the words before an alert popped up. Live streams of two other screens inside the venue, the gift table and the reception hall, broadcasting real-time on YouTube. Someone had set up cameras. I bit my lip, stunned. My plan had escalated beyond my control. I walked back to my car, not sure what would happen next. News vans would arrive, social media would buzz, lives would be shattered. Yet I felt a strange calm. The weight of betrayal had lifted, replaced by a cold realization. Vengeance can be beautiful and dangerous. Just then, my phone rang. It was Emily's number. I hesitated, then answered. Her voice, trembling, asked, "Was that you?" I closed my eyes as the car door clicked shut behind me. "Yes," I whispered. "It was me." The line between triumph and ruin blurred as Emily's words echoed in the empty parking lot. I sat in the driver's seat for a long moment, staring at the dashboard lights, my chest heaving from adrenaline and apprehension. Behind me, the chapel's ornate windows reflected the afternoon sun like shards of broken promises. I ended the call without waiting for her reply. The ringtone's echo faded, replaced by the low hum of the idling engine. Then, all at once, notifications flooded my phone. Tweets tagging me as wedding crasher. Instagram stories saturated with the hashtag payback exposed. And direct messages from strangers commiserating or condemning. I thumbed through one that read, "You monster, you destroyed someone's life." Another, "Finally, justice served. I hate cheaters." The division of opinion felt oddly validating. I pressed my hand to the steering wheel, feeling its smooth, familiar coolness. A thought struck me. I had engineered to ultimate reckoning, but what would come next? I replayed every moment, finding the florist's non-refundable deposit detail, renting the rooms, orchestrating the audio-visual coup. Each step had been meticulous. I'd left nothing to chance. Yet the live streams had been an unforeseen twist. Someone else had mirrored my intent, amplifying the fallout. Now, instead of a contained scene of embarrassment, Emily and Michael's downfall was public spectacle fodder, a viral drama. I shifted the car into gear and eased away from the curb, leaving behind the chaos I'd sown. The street was silent except for distant sirens and the rustle of weekend traffic. My destination was my old apartment, our apartment, though it no longer felt mine. Entering the unlocked door, I flicked on the overhead light. Familiar furniture loomed in the dusty evening glow. Mint green paint flaked near the windowsill. That couch where she once napped after a long shift. The coffee table where we'd spent countless movie nights. Everything was haunted by memories I no longer wanted. I crossed to the kitchen and opened the fridge out of habit. A half-empty carton of almond milk stared back at me. A few leftover Tupperware containers of pasta. I closed the door, my reflection trembling in the stainless steel surface. I closed my eyes, willing the ghost of our life together to vanish. Part of me still ached for the warmth we'd shared, those late-night whispers, fussing over slippers, the comfort of her hand in mine. But the betrayal had ignited a fury sharper than any love I'd felt. Over the next 48 hours, the story exploded across social media. News outlets picked up the footage, locally, then nationally. Headlines blared, bride and groom caught in double betrayal. Wedding day catastrophe, secret affairs exposed live. Talk shows debated whether my actions were courageous or cruel. Reddit threads theorized about the identity of Emily's coworker, speculated on the legal ramifications, and shared their own tales of revenge. The live streams that I thought were mine alone had multiplied, guest phones, venue cameras, even a drone capturing aerial shots. My phone rang incessantly, calls from unknown numbers, some seeking interviews, others legal threats. I ignored them. My world narrowed to a single focus, processing what I had done and what it meant for my future. Could I live with being both hero and villain? Could I reconcile the euphoria of making her pay with the guilt of shattering not just one life, but two families' dreams? I found myself drawn to online discussions, lurking in comment sections to see how the narrative spun. Some praised me as a defender of scorned lovers, a lone avenger cutting through lies. Others vilified me as a sociopath with a vendetta. Neither label felt fully accurate. I had acted out of pain, not principle, out of wounded pride, not moral conviction. Yet the result had felt righteous, an unmasking of deceit. Late on the second evening, I received a cryptic text. Meet me, 10 p.m., rooftop bar, 17th Street. No name, just coordinates. My gut twisted. I wondered if this was Michael, Emily, the cinematic coworker, or someone else entirely. I hesitated, then texted back, "Who is this?" A single reply. Someone who knows what you did. Fear and curiosity warred within me. I decided to go. The rooftop bar was dimly lit, lanterns swaying in a cool breeze. Skyscraper lights blinked overhead, and the city's hum was a distant lullaby. I spotted a lone figure leaning on the railing, back turned. As I approached, the figure turned. It was the audio-visual technician, the man I tricked into playing a part in my scheme. His face was pixelated in my memory, more anxious than angry. "You," he said softly, voice gravelly. He held a manila envelope. "Thought you should have this." I took it hesitantly, opening it to find a USB drive and a sheet of paper. On the paper, "You're not the only one who likes a grand gesture." My heart stuttered. Inside the drive, files labeled Payback Game Final Cut. I slipped the drive into my pocket as the technician melted into the shadows of the rooftop.
Back in my apartment, I connected the drive to my laptop. A new folder appeared. Part 1, Emily and Michael. Video files, edited versions of the earlier slideshow, interspersed with raw footage of guests' reactions. Then, Part 2, You and Me. My breath caught. There were clips from hotel security cameras, me checking in as Samuel Reed, me at the audio-visual rack, me slipping out undetected. Even shots of me examining Michael's social media on a public bench. Someone had documented my every move, anticipating my surrender to this fate. I played a preview clip, me dialing Emily's number, admitting responsibility. Then the screen cut to a title card, The Final Payback. My name underneath, bold and accusing. My reflection in the screen looked hollow, as if the person who enacted revenge and the person watching were separate beings. A message file opened automatically. Upload this to your channel within 24 hours, or we upload it ourselves. Consider this the price of payback. My blood ran cold. Whoever had orchestrated this secondary plot had their own score to settle. I realized I'd published Emily and Michael's betrayal, but now my own exposure was at stake. The hunter had become the hunted. I sat back, mind racing. I had two choices: preemptively upload the footage with my own narrative, own the story, frame it as catharsis, or refuse and risk the anonymous blackmailer releasing it anyway, uncontrolled. If I released it, I could control the timestamps, add context, maybe cast myself as justice incarnate. But I would legitimize my actions, forever branding myself as the antagonist in my own tale. The clock on the screen blinked past midnight. I sat in silence, the city's nocturnal pulse thumping through my walls. Emotions I thought long buried, fear, shame, regret, surged like a tide. I thought of Emily's trembling voice and Michael's hollow smirk in the footage. I thought of the lives I'd shattered for my own reprisal. I thought of my own hand shaking at the brink of another transgression. I powered down the laptop and stood, pacing the room. At dawn, I'd decide. But as I looked at the mint green walls, at the reminders of a shared life that no longer existed, I felt both liberated and imprisoned. Liberation in knowing the truth had come to light, but imprisonment by the irreversible chain I had forged. Morning light crept through the curtains, soft and indifferent. I brewed coffee, the aroma bittersweet. My gaze settled on the unopened envelope containing the USB, still resting on the kitchen counter. It taunted me with possibilities, confession or defiance, vulnerability or control. I took a deep breath and picked up my phone. My finger hovered above the upload button for the blackmailer's video. File size 2.3 gigabytes, duration 7 minutes 42 seconds of raw, unfiltered footage. My mind swirled with the knowledge that once I shared it, there would be no turning back. Every viewer, thousands, perhaps millions, would see not just the justice I delivered, but the cruelty I enacted. I thought of the world I wanted to inhabit after this storm, a world where I could lay down the burden of this vendetta and start anew without shadows chasing me. But the drive was in my hands, and the blackmailer's ultimatum loomed. I exhaled, steadying myself. And then, with deliberate slowness, I lifted the envelope and opened it one more time. Not for the blackmailer, but for myself. I needed to watch it again, to feel the truth of my own story before the world judged it. And the final twist was mine to reveal.